It's understood thousands of football VIPs could be allowed to travel to the UK for the final matches of Euro 2020 without having to quarantine. The government is reportedly looking at an exemption for the likes of politicians, officials and sponsors attending the games at Wembley. Our correspondent Rachel Venables has more.
These negotiations have been going on for a while, with UEFA wanting some 2,500 VIPs to be able to attend the final in July without facing the same quarantine requirements as the rest of us. It's now reported the government's approaching a deal that would place them in bubbles, only allowing them to attend the matches. Many VIPs are also expected to fly in and out on the same day, or else stay in hotels block booked for the tournament.
Scotland's journey at their first major football tournament in 23 years is over. Steve Clarke's side lost 3-1 to Croatia at Hampden Park last night, so finished bottom of Group D. These fans in Glasgow are still proud of the national team.
Very happy with the team. We just have to wait to Qatar 2022 and we're going to win the World Cup.
They played really well. There's not much that we could have asked for.
I had our high hopes and we always do, and that's the thing that was being Scottish is no matter how the odds are against us, we always think we will anyway. And do you know what? It's been a great night.
England are going through as Group D winners after beating the Czech Republic 1-0 at Wembley. They'll face either France, Portugal or Germany in the last 16. The travel sector is holding a day of action to put pressure on the government to relax restrictions. The industry body ABTA wants testing and quarantine requirements for fully vaccinated travellers to be removed from green and amber locations. Travel agents, pilots and cabin crew will hold protests in London, Edinburgh and Belfast. Scientists are looking into whether a drug normally used to fight infections from parasites can be used for coronavirus. The pilot study showed ivermectin could be effective at killing viruses in a lab. The drug has become controversial after being promoted for use in some countries, despite so far being unproven. The immigration minister says next week's deadline for the EU settlement scheme will not be extended, despite calls from campaigners. Kevin Foster believes giving more people more time to apply for the post-Brexit residency programme would only add to more uncertainty. The government's confirmed a consultation will be held on the privatisation of Channel 4. The Department for Culture, Media and Sport will also review regulation of streaming services like Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. In the city, the FTSE 100 will reopen at 70.90 after closing up 27 points yesterday. The pound buys $1.39 and €1.16. And the weather cloudy with some light rain for parts of North Wales, Northern England, Northern Ireland and Scotland. Brighter, dry and warmer further south, a high of 22 degrees. From Global's newsroom, I'm Simon Conway.
The Pirates Crossed was a quiet little bakery until its online bread making classes went viral and demand rose through the roof. Now I need a manager just to do with orders. It's time to hire. I need Indeed. Indeed you do. Indeed delivers quality candidates so you can focus on hiring the person you need to help your business grow. If you're ready for Indeed to help your business get back to hiring, simply visit Indeed.com/try today. That's Indeed.com/try today.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Morning, 3 minutes after 7 on Wednesday, June the 23rd. Coming up in this hour now, flu and pneumonia deaths are 10 times higher than COVID. Indeed, if you get all the stats, the statistics, just 1 in 25 deaths now linked to coronavirus. So how much longer will they deny us our freedom? Full coverage of that story. The horrific case in court about an alleged cat killer. That will shock you. I'll give you a listening warning. It's coming up a little bit later. 5 years ago to the day, we all marched off to the polls.
In a quarter of a mile, keep right to continue towards Tons Lane, A355.
The ship over the coming weeks, but I do not think it would be right to try to be the captain that steers our country to its next destination.
Yes, David Cameron resigning the morning after the night before being Brexit, of course. Well done, England. They go through to the next round of the year. It's bad luck, Scotland. A plucky effort. But what are the players who are still
Keep right.
able to train? Meanwhile, 2,500 VIPs will be allowed in. It seems a strange set of priorities. We'll look at that. And the TV channel that is probably for sale.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto the M4 slip road to London, Heathrow Airport.
39 years ago, they launched into Countdown. They've been responsible for some great programming. It's a Sin and Big Brother, accepted whether you like it or not. It was great programming. They're also responsible for making just say, I would laugh like a drain if Rupert Murdoch, who is in town at the moment, was able to buy Channel 4 and he sent his executives into the Channel 4 newsroom. In fact, I would do a day for them without pay. I would just go along and help out on that day. That would be a conversation. Channel 4, for what it's worth, we're looking at that later in the show. Now, the numbers today, which of course we always start, and it's very relevant because we're about to have a conversation. 1 in 125 deaths linked to coronavirus. Flu and pneumonia counting now 10 times the death rate.
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
But still, although there are headlines hinting at it, we are still in England on lockdown, and in Scotland, well, my heart goes out to you. Nicola Sturgeon delaying your Freedom Day until August the 9th, and you still have to meet targets to get there, but more of that in a moment. Now, the doses, it's a bit difficult to give you because the numbers actually exclude England. So when I tell you that it's only first doses at 20, over 21,000, your head might be in your head, but that's only for Wales, Northern Scotland, and the second doses. So should we just tell you where the infections are, I think? Because as you may have heard already on the BBC News Bulletins...
Continue on M4 for 5 miles.
So new infections, let's move straight to that 11,625, that's up 31 percentage points, which is entirely consistent with this week in that rolling 7-day average. There have been an additional 27 deaths, taking the total number of fatalities or deaths to 128,008. And those figures are accurate, they are from the whole of the United Kingdom. And of course, sit with this if your lives are touched at this time. And on that story and on the feeling in some of the newspapers today, the headlines are blueprint for lift off. It's an exciting one because this week there is a here we go. Those face masks and distance rules will go on July the 19th. What is the reality, particularly with reference to these other figures? BBC's political editor Z. Ashman drills down into the details here.
Social distancing restrictions remain in place. We still have to wear face coverings in shops and on public transport. Of course, theatres and packed sports venues have not returned. But despite this, COVID is far from being as widespread and as deadly as it was at the turn of the year. Indeed, new numbers now from the Office of National Statistics show there are now 10 times the number of people dying from flu or pneumonia than those losing their life from coronavirus. In the week ending June the 11th, there were just 84 cases of COVID being recorded among death certificates in England and Wales. By contrast, there were 1,163 deaths involving flu or pneumonia. COVID now accounts for just 0.8% of deaths. Dr. Bob Gill, a GP based in Welling, South East London, has warned that
There's a stalled vehicle ahead.
because of the lockdown restrictions, there is the potential for a worse flu pandemic this year.
Because of the lockdowns, because of the lack of social contact, the natural passage of flu through the community hasn't occurred. So potentially there hasn't been that build-up of immunity within the population. So that does make the potential spread of a flu virus more serious.
Now, the mood music in Westminster is the government intends to press ahead with lifting all restrictions on July the 19th, having delayed full reopening, of course, which had been due to happen 2 days ago. Nevertheless, even by our current trajectory, there will be 30,000 new infections a day by that point. And as Boris Johnson suggested earlier in the week, this winter could be tough, in large part because of a flu pandemic.
I think what the scientists are saying is that things like flu will come back this winter. We may have a rough winter for all sorts of reasons. And obviously there are big pressures on the NHS. One reason to reduce the number of COVID cases now, give the NHS the breathing space it needs to get on with dealing with all those other pressures. And we're certainly going to be putting in the investment to make sure that they can.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson concluding Theo Ashton's report. Let's bring to the conversation Dr. Simon Clark, who's Associate Professor in Study
In 2 miles, at junction 4B, exit towards M3, M23.
Professor, you're an incredibly wise bloke. You don't beat a virus with a lockdown, do you?
No, you don't. But you stop it from getting out of hand.
It's not out of hand. It was out of hand. It's not out of hand now compared with people who are contracting other and indeed dying from other causes, surely.
It's not out of hand, no, right, but they don't want it to get out of hand. This is you've got to remember the government don't actually tell us what metrics they use to decide whether they're going to impose a lockdown or not. So it's almost impossible to say what they're going to do.
Cancer, July the 19th, July the 5th. Where would you place the date, lastly?
My guess is July the 19th.
And that is face masks gone, social distancing gone, the world returns to whatever the normal world will be, would you say?
I certainly hope so.
You and me both. Thanks as ever for your time. Always enjoy speaking with you. Simon Clark is Doctor and Associate Professor in Cellular Biology at the University of Reading. Important, though, of course, to put the economic case, which is, and I know, and it's absolutely fine, you revel in pouring a bucket of over my head every morning when I urge the country. But honestly, in the unlikely event that I'm still alive in 12 months' time, we will be hearing about the most horrific instances, businesses collapsing, emotional health, and just today, eating disorders have surged by more than a fifth in 11 months. Well, what's been going on over the last 11 months? We need to get some normality back. But I'm no economist. Andrew Lillico is. He's also economist for The Telegraph. Where are you now? Is it, I would argue, the data moves really to unlock. Good morning.
Yes, indeed. Well, it seems to me that the data, actually, it's fairly clear now that we could have unlocked this week. The data's proved to be quite a lot better than was expected at the time that the unlocking decision was taken. So you'll recall that when he made the decision...
In a quarter of a mile, at junction 4B, exit towards M3, M23.
...per week metrics that he was using. But within 3 or 4 days of that, it was announced that they were down to about 32%. They halved, and down about just over 30% per week. So, and that hadn't...
Exit at junction 4B, then keep right at the fork.
Something for example, in the Warwick model, which was one of the models that the SAGE group used to develop to help them think about the question of whether it was safe to unlock. They were expecting that by last Monday we would have about 100,000 new cases per day. We actually have something like...
Keep right at the fork.
...cases per day by that date. So less than a quarter of what it was that they had thought. And so that's based on, you have your measured cases.
Continue on M25 south for 1.5 miles.
The measured cases, we're capturing all the infections in the measured cases because some people get through without getting tested. It's probably 2.5 times that. So we're way below the things which the models were forecasting in early June. And that's because it turned out that things weren't nearly as bad with this Indian variant as people had expected. So it seems to me that it's pretty clear already. We had much better hospitalisation, efficacy of the vaccines than they had expected. The spread rate is much slower than they expected, and they'd planned against it. They were nervous about it, the kind of worst case scenario, which some of the data suggested might be possible, just at the moment that they were making a decision. Within days, it's become clear that that wasn't so. I think they should be safe to open on July 5th.
This is almost a controversial question, but I need to ask it. Can you give a sense of the damage the economy sustained?
Yes, so there's no reason to think about this. The lost GDP, 10% contraction GDP.
In half a mile, at junction 14, use the left 2 lanes to take the A3113 exit to Heathrow Airport.
So I asked the question, well, suppose that you had been able to live a year in the past instead of March 2020 through to now, the last 15 months or so.
Use the left 2 lanes to exit at junction 14, then keep right.
Let's say 2000 to 2001, or 19
Keep right.
to 1990, 1979 to 1980, or 1969 to 1970. I would say I find that most people
Continue for half a mile.
had preferred probably to have lived, they're pretty confident they would have preferred to have lived from 1989 to 1990 over that year, and things probably changed around 1979, 1980, they become less sure. That indicates
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Airport Way, A3113.
to 60% of GDP
Liverpool, a big top to a festival headlined by the Blossoms. I've got all their early work. Do you remember that? And do you remember 5,000 people packed in on May the 2nd? So now the data is in. 5,000 people, no distancing, no social masks, total strangers, standing next to each other, dancing, doing what people do at festivals. How many COVID infections as a result of those 5,000 people? 12, 120, or 1,200? 12, 120, or 1,200, the number of infections. That plus a horrific court case after the news.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the second exit onto Southern Perimeter Road.
Continues. I'm LBC's Lauren Roberts with the latest.
7:15 LBC News headline Simon Cook.
Football VIPs may be given an exemption from quarantine rules so they can attend the final Euro 2020 games at Wembley. Scotland's journey at the tournament is over, but England have progressed to the last 16 as group winners. The travel sector is holding a day of action to put pressure on the government to relax restrictions and extend financial support. The weather, cloudy with some rain in the north, fine and dry further south, a high of 22 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. Delays continue on the M1 northbound to junction 50.
Exit the roundabout onto Southern Perimeter Road.
Of an accident where one lane is closed. In Putney Hill, the South Circular Road is closed both ways. That's after an accident.
In 200 yards, at the roundabout, take the second exit and stay on Southern Perimeter Road.
And that's also after an accident. Now, these problems in Loughton continue. The high roads closed both ways. And on the underground, there are severe delays on the Piccadilly line eastbound between Acton Town and Colfosters.
LBC. This is a metaphor for your business's journey. Sometimes it feels
Exit the roundabout onto Southern Perimeter Road. Continue on Southern Perimeter Road for 1.5 miles.
They have the advice on tech solutions with Windows 10 Pro to help protect your business and get you where you want to be.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the third exit onto Beacon Road. Exit the roundabout onto Beacon Road. In 100 yards, at the roundabout, take the second exit onto Stanwell Road. Exit the roundabout onto Stanwell Road. Continue on Stanwell Road for half a mile. In 300 yards, turn right onto Hatton Road. Turn right onto Hatton Road, then turn left onto Staines Road. Turn left onto Staines Road, A315. In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Staines Road, A315. In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Staines Road, A315. In 300 yards, turn right onto Shaftesbury Avenue. Take the next right onto Shaftesbury Avenue, then turn left onto Roslin Avenue.